The United States of America versus Donald J. Trump. That will be the legal title of the case if there is a criminal prosecution of Donald Trump based on the results of the FBI investigation outlined in the federal search warrant of Donald Trump's home that was made public today. Donald Trump's 76-year-old knees will weaken if he ever stands in a federal courtroom and hears the title of that case announced, the United States of America versus Donald J. Trump. Every federal criminal defendant feels crushed when they hear those two teams announced. The United States of America versus John Doe. John Doe collapses when he hears that, whoever the John Doe is. Donald Trump has just suffered the worst legal week of his life. The only way his legal life can get worse from here is for him to actually be charged with a crime, as he may be in Georgia, as we will discuss later in this hour, and in Washington by the Justice Department, in what we now know is a multi-pronged federal criminal investigation of Donald Trump. This is the week that we learned that the ripest of the federal criminal investigations of Donald Trump is the one we now know the most about, his misuse of government records, including classified information. Think back to 1 week ago tonight at this time. We had no idea that this investigation was underway. But 1 week ago, last Friday, in a secret proceeding in a Florida federal court, a federal judge approved a Justice Department request for a search warrant of Donald Trump's home. And so at this very hour, last Friday, the FBI had their search warrant. They had what they needed to go search a former president's home. In the search warrant released today, it says that the search warrant was signed and approved by the court on August 5th, 2022. That's last Friday. The FBI spent the weekend preparing for the search, which they quietly began Monday morning. And as the sun was setting over Mar-a-Lago on Monday night, Donald Trump decided to publicly reveal that a large number of FBI agents executed a search warrant at his home that day. That's how we found out about it on Monday night, from Donald Trump. On Tuesday, Rudy Giuliani's lawyers demanded to know whether he is a criminal target of the Fulton County grand jury investigation of election fraud in Georgia. And on Tuesday, the House Ways and Means Committee won its case in a federal court of appeals to obtain Donald Trump's tax returns. On Wednesday, Donald Trump took the Fifth Amendment 440 times in under oath questioning in an investigation by New York State's Attorney General. And also that day, too much of the news media fell for Donald Trump's false framing that the search warrant story would somehow be good for him politically. On Thursday, a crazed Trump supporter who was at the Capitol on January 6th decided it was time to go to war against the FBI after hearing so much Republican condemnation of the FBI this week, including from Donald Trump. That Trump supporter fired a nail gun at an FBI field office in Cincinnati, injuring no one, then led police on a car chase that turned into a 6-hour standoff, at the end of which the Trump supporter, wielding an AR-15, was shot dead by police. Republicans and Donald Trump did not tone down their hate rhetoric aimed at the FBI after that. While that standoff was going on Thursday, Attorney General Merrick Garland made a 4-minute announcement saying he personally authorized the search of Donald Trump's home and that he was authorizing federal prosecutors to ask the judge in the case to make the search warrant public. And today, Donald Trump decided not to oppose the Justice Department's request to make the search warrant public. And so late this afternoon, a federal court in Florida released the search warrant. The search warrant says that the FBI was searching for material that was, quote, illegally possessed. That was their phrase, illegally possessed by Donald Trump, including, quote, national defense information or classified material, or any evidence of the knowing alteration, destruction, or concealment of any government and/or presidential records or of any documents with classification markings. The search warrant indicated that the Justice Department is investigating possible violations of 3 laws against hiding, removing, or destroying classified material, gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information, destruction, alteration, or falsification of records in federal investigations. The inventory of the completed search, a copy of which was given to Donald Trump, lists over 30 items, including, quote, miscellaneous top secret documents, miscellaneous secret documents, info Ray, President of France, and executive grant of clemency Ray Roger Jason Stone Jr.